All right. Good morning, everyone. I am Teresa Cochran, and I'm the garage underwriter and also a commercial package underwriter here at CID. And I'm going to be going through the Accord 125 and 126 with you. Jacob listed some of the sections on each of the two Accord forms, and we will be hitting most of those sections today. All right, so right now we're looking at the Accord 125. And yeah, there's a lot of boxes on here, but guess what? We don't have to fill them all in. So I'm going to fill in the boxes I'm looking for when I'm looking through a submission from all of you. And the example we're going to be filling out in a Accord application for a clothing store today. All right, so we're going to put in the date. And bear with me as I type through these different sections here. I already have some agency information in this box. Over here, you're going to let me know what coverages we're going to be quoting. So we're going to be doing property. Where is that? General liability right here. And we're also going to be doing an umbrella. Status of transaction is going to be quote. We're looking for a quote today. The proposed effective date is today. So you guys aren't giving me a lot of time to quote this, but we're going to use today as the effective date. The name of the insured. We're going to use Fashion Store Inc. and their DBA, if I can spell, is going to be Fashion Spot. And mailing address, keep it nice and simple. And it's Fashion Store Inc. So their form of business is a corporation. I'm not going to worry about any ID numbers. Date of business, that little box over here is overlooked quite often, but it is very important to us as an underwriter to see what experience they have. We're going to say they started 2 years ago. The inspection contact is going to be the owner of the corporation, and we're going to call her Mary Smith. And her phone number looks good to me. The accounting record, it's going to be the same person as the inspection contact, so not going to worry about completing that part. All right, location 1, building 1. It's going to be the same address as the mailing, so I'm going to copy and paste that information over here. We're in San Diego. We're inside a city limit. The corporation is the owner of the building, so I'm going to click on owner. The year built of the building is 1980, and this clothing store occupies 100% of the building. This box right here is very important. It helps us to understand what risk we are quoting. So the nature of the business, well, it's a retail clothing store. Oh my goodness. And I'm also going to put that it's an owner-occupied building. Okay. General information. These little boxes down here, I did answer the questions. So, take your time, read through the questions. This is the only, usually they're going to be answered all no. But today I answered this one yes. I am saying that this clothing store, their policy has either been declined, canceled, or non-renewed. And right here in the remarks section, I'm going to put that coverage was non-renewed due to carrier no longer writing this type of business. Okay? So it's at no fault to the insured, but the carrier is just no longer writing clothing stores. And now we're going to go down to page 2 of the Accord 125, where you're going to put in all the lovely information about what carriers they've been with since 2019 when they started the business. We're just going to say that they've been with Farmers. And their policy number is right there. Their policy dates And it's the same for the property. So we're going to scroll down here. And I'm just going to copy and paste these dates. So they've been fully covered by farmers the entire time they've been in business. But farmers is getting off of it, so we're looking for a new home. And honestly, this is really all I'm looking for on the second page with the prior carrier information. All right, any losses? No, they haven't had any losses. I'm going to click this little box here. And guess what? We're done with the 125. Now we're on to the 126, which is all about general liability. So down at the top, put our date in here. Fashion Store Inc. The effective date is also today. Not going to worry about the payment plans because the carriers we use, some of them are direct bill, some are agency bill. So I'm just going to leave this blank because sometimes you don't have a choice. So we're going to move on from there. We have, they want the general liability. It's a clothing store, so it's going to be per occurrence. Claims made is usually your professional liability, your professional types of risks. I have standard 1 million, 2 million general liability limits listed out here. Schedule of hazards. This is where we're going to go over all the liability exposures. All right, so location 1, we've got a retail clothing store. Put that in. That's the classification of the risk. Don't worry about class codes. Some carriers use ISO codes. Some carriers use their own codes. Feel free to leave that blank. Premium basis. Clothing store, sales. That's going to be your main exposure here. We're going to say it's about $200,000 a year. What other exposures can we go over? Maybe a square footage. Who knows? Maybe some carriers rate on square footage. So we're going to put 1,000 square feet here. And I'm going to include payroll as well. These are going to be your 3 main premium bases that you're going to be inputting on these on the Accord 125. Okay, so I got all those inputted. Let's see. This is not a claims made type of policy. Again, that's typically for a professional type of risk. We're not asking for any employee benefits liability. Not a contractor. And the product's completed operations, that's really going to be for a manufacturing type of risk. So we don't have to complete these answers either. All right, additional insured. Yes, we're going to say that they do have an additional insured. They have a mortgagee. They own the building. They have a loan on the building. So we want to make sure the mortgagee is included. Okay, and it's for location 1, building 1. And we're going to say this is the mortgage company. And here's some general information. Again, I check marked them. They're typically always going to be no, but make sure you read them, you get familiar with the questions. And guess what? That's it. So not too bad, not too many boxes you have to fill in. Now we're going to go into the property section, and my coworker, Michelle Belden, is going to go through that with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle and I'm your commercial and nonprofit underwriter. So today I'm going to go over the Accord 140, so the property section, as well as the Accord 131 for the umbrella. And just give me 1 second to swap that around. So I'm just going to show you guys, and then I'm going to do the same thing Teresa did. I'm going to go through and type through on the Accord. So just a real quick glance at what we're going over. All the highlighted sections on the Accord 140 is what we're going to go over today. So let me pull that up for you guys. Like Teresa, I'm going to follow her date. So I already typed in today's date and put in our agency information. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the named insured. And again, we're going to put the policy dates in. And like Teresa said, selecting the payment plan information doesn't matter. It's not going to affect anything one way or the other. And then the next information that I'm most concerned about is the building information, including the address on this page. So this is premises 1, building 1. So if they had multiple premises, we just list premise 1, premise 2, and then however buildings are each of those premises. And then again with the address. All right, so now for the subject of insurance. There's always different ways people fill this out. So what we're looking for here is what type of property coverage you're looking for. Sometimes I'll see people will list the address here or list a description of what the building is. That's not what we're looking for here. Here we're looking for what type of coverage you're looking for. So since they own the building, they need building coverage. So we're going to give them $150,000 in building coverage. Your coinsurance is important. We will automatically default them if there isn't a coinsurance listed on there to 80%. That is our requirement. In this case, we're going to give them special form replacement costs. So that's our valuation here is replacement cost, and we want to give them special form. Not too concerned about inflation guard, and then a deductible. Generally speaking, if a deductible is not applied, standard deductible is either going to be $1,000 or $2,500, depending on the carrier, on what they pick. We're also, since they are a clothing store and they have merchandise, we're going to also give them business personal property, also known as BPP. So we're going to give them that. And we're going to give them $50,000 in BPP. And again, we're, filling out this information as well. And then we're also going to give them business income. And some people will leave this blank or put ALS, which stands for, their total losses. So we're going to actually give them a specific amount. So we need a specific amount for business income. Regardless if the carrier will offer them ALS or not, we still need a number because we still have to put something in. So I'm going to give them $100,000 in business income. And then if there's any other property coverages you're looking for, say, they want equipment breakdown, you can just list them down here. And, that's something else we can include. So equipment breakdown is an example. Building ordinance is another example of other property coverages we can offer them. We can include a property enhancement endorsement. So any property coverages that you're looking for, we would be looking for them to be included on the 140. Some carriers automatically include certain coverages, as part of their bells and whistles, and that's fine. Not all of them do. So if you list out, we will make sure we're including the coverages that you're looking for. So we're not having to, continually requote the risk for you. This additional information section, not really too concerned about it. So like I said, we're really looking for this information at the top, your building information and your business income, and then any other coverages you're looking for. Now, as far as the building makeup goes, this is extremely important to us. So we need the construction type. Most buildings, I'm going to say in California, are frame. Protection class is important to us, so I'm going to put 2. This building is 1 story, no basements. We're going to say it was built in 1980, like Teresa put on her first page, and that's something also, too, that we're comparing to, making sure the information, that is listed on the 125 and 126 corresponds to what's listed on the 140. Obviously, we want it to be consistent. And then we're making the building is 1,000 square feet. So the building was built in 1980. So at this point, the building is 41 years old, which for most of our carriers means they don't qualify for special form anymore. So for them to be able to qualify for special form replacement costs, we are looking for building updates. So to the wiring, roofing, plumbing, and heating. So we're looking for this information. So a lot of times I will get just this. The X's are marked, but no years are provided. We need to know what year the building was updated. So in this case, I'm going to say the building was updated in 2010 for all components. It can be, all over the place. They only did one part at a time. That's totally fine. But we do need that information in order to offer in order to offer you guys special form replacement costs. Without that information, we're only going to be able to offer you basic ACV. Also, this information is important as well, even if we're only offering them business personal property. Say they are just the tenant of the building and they don't own anything else. They don't own the building themselves. We still need this information in order to quote with our markets. And then we also, honestly, all of this information, nothing else really matters except for burglar alarm. So if they have a central station burglar alarm, please let us know. That way we can offer them and include theft coverage for them. So I'm just going to say Bay Area Alarm, we'll call it that. So we are looking for that, and if we have to inspect the risk, that is something that we'd be looking to have confirmed, so we can ensure that we are able to offer them theft coverage. Because if they don't have that central station alarm, we can't offer theft, so theft will be excluded. And yes, please mark if it is a central station alarm. That is extremely important to us. And then the next piece of information that we're concerned about is whether or not the building is sprinkled or not. That is very helpful. Some carriers offer a sprinkler credit. So depending on, the building, let's just say this building is based on the age, it probably isn't sprinklered, but this is an important area to put, if it's partially sprinklered or so what percentage is sprinklered, please include that information if you have it. And then last but not least, we are going to include a mortgagee and a lost payee on here. So we did ABC Bank at, and again, just include this information for us so we can make sure the appropriate additional insured forms are included on the policy. If you have a loan number, feel free to include that. I know we don't always get that information, and sometimes you don't get that information as well. But if you have that, please include that on there, and we'll make sure that's included on the certificate as well. So that is the 140. And again, if we scroll to the second page, it's just repeating the information all over again. So if they had multiple buildings, you would just be putting in what coverages you're looking for that building, and the same basic information. If they've had updates, what year it was built, the construction type, the square footage. So would be repeating that information. So I'm going to pop over to the Accord 131, which
Michelle,
is for.
Before you move on, there's
Sure.
a couple questions.
Okay, not a
Do
problem.
you need me to read them or can you see them?
Give me 1 second. Let me read them real quick. All right, so I see we have a question about protection class. Generally speaking, if something's within the city limits, it's generally a protection class 1 to 6. Generally, I would say it's really 1 to a 3. I know some agents use certain services where they can, they're running a report on the building anyways in order to determine, their replacement cost on the building. So that report also provides them with the protection class, things like that. Some of our carriers do put the protection class on there for us when we, go in to quote the risk. So if you don't know the protection class, it's important to us, but we can move forward without it. As long as they're not in some extremely high wooded area, extremely far from city limits where, the protection class could easily be like a 9 or a 10, that's when we get into those are higher risk type locations. So really, generally speaking, your protection class is going to be between 1 and 6 if it's something that's, within the city limits. And then we have another question. Okay, so our other question is toward the specific type of risk for a HOA community association, and they're asking about if they had any sort of patrol, so like a security guard or anything like that on their premise. That's not necessarily something that you would list on the Accords, not on the 140 or anything like that. For our HOAs, we have specific supplementals where these questions are asked, so we would be putting that information on those, not specifically on the Accords. All right, and I believe that was it for our 2 questions. So I'm going to pop over to the Accord 131. So Teresa also said we were going to give them an umbrella. So that's what the Accord 131 is for. Again, I filled out some basic information on here already for us as far as the agent. Put their name. Again, you can skip over the payment information. We're not going to worry about that. So we're calling this a new, because it's new to us. It might be a renewal for you guys, but the account is new to us, so we're going to call it new. I'm not too concerned about your retroactive date. So here is your limit of liability. This is what limit we're looking for. So we're going to say they want a $2 million umbrella. So we're going to put that in. So that's the limit. So the limit that they're looking for is important to us because it will help determine what markets we can go to. Some of our markets can go up to $5 million. Some of them can go up a little bit higher. It just depends on the type of risk it is and what limit they're looking for. Again, we're going to put in their location information. All right, and then I believe Teresa put 40,000 for their payroll, and we've had 200,000 for the sales. I'm not concerned about foreign sales, and the number of employees I'm not concerned about here. So now we want to know what coverages you want to go over. For sure, we want to go over the general liability. So here is where you would list the carrier. If you're quoting it new to us, and we don't know who the carrier is going to be yet, that's fine. We don't need that necessarily filled in. If you were just looking for us to do an umbrella over an existing policy for you, I'm just going to put Farmers in for an example, and then we'd want to know what their policy dates are for their umbrella, and then you're going to fill in your standard limits. And this is important to us, especially if they have 2-4 limits, already, what limits they're looking to go over. These are things that we would need to know. And then, so let's say we want to include the auto liability. So this could either be a true commercial auto policy, or say they have hired an unknown auto. So we're going to say that they have hired an unknown auto included on their current Farmers policy. So we're going to, again, fill in this information. All right, and then we're going to say they have $1 million limits right now included. All right, and then we can also go over the employer's liability, so their work comp policy, if they have a work comp policy. So let's just say they have one through employers, and we're going to include that as well. Again, if you don't have this information, including it on here, especially having the, the carrier and things like I said, if they are currently shopping the account and we don't know who the underlying is going to be, that's not a problem for us. Because what we're going to end up asking you as well, in addition to the Accord 131 to quote the umbrella, is we're also going to ask you either for a copy of the underlying quotes or policy that they have in place that we're going over, because our carriers are going to need to see the forms list, and we're going to need to know the premium. So the GL portion of it is going to be rated on the GL premium from the underlying policy. So having that information isn't helpful as well. So just giving us an Accord 131 is a little difficult because we don't have enough information to quote off of. So any underlying policy you're looking for us to go over, we would need a copy of that as well. But like I said, we can definitely work off any quotes, underlying quotes. It doesn't have to be a policy that's in effect yet. And then, honestly, most of these questions I don't really care for to be answered. They don't necessarily apply because we're getting a copy of that quote or the policy, so we're already seeing all the rating factors on there. So really, I'm most concerned about the first page and what policies we're looking to go over. So that's pretty much it for the 140 and the 131. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer this over to Lexi Johnson, and she's going to go through the work comp accords for you.